Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Pastor Lance Smith, and we're here at Zwingli in downtown Monticello, Wisconsin, Zwingli United Church of Christ with the Hump Day Devotional. And today I'm thinking about Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes was also known as the teacher. There's a book in the Bible written that's attributed to the writings of Ecclesiastes, one of the wisdom scriptures of the Jewish people. Ecclesiastes 3, you all know this. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. You know, one of my fondest memories of my preteen and teenage years was summer. The hot summer, sultry days in southeastern Ohio. We lived in the Hockin River Valley, which was a lush green valley that provided hot, muggy days that seemed to last forever. There were several things one could do to find relief from the heat, but one of my favorites was to stop by the vegetable fruit stand at the edge of town for a sweet, tasty snack. The stand was only open part of the year. It was only open like April through October, and there was a constant variety of fresh vegetables and fruits that paraded through the display bins at the stand. On the hottest days of summer, there would be a huge, ripe, blood-red tomato. Those tomatoes were only hours away from the vines down on the Ohio River bottoms. We called them river tomatoes, and they grew in rich, dark, black soil that was replenished from time to time from periodic floods that would bathe those plots in silt and dirt and soil from the bottom of the riverbeds. River tomatoes were huge and sort of ugly, and they looked deformed. They were those low-acid beefsteak style tomatoes. These were what most people would call heirloom tomatoes today. They were all shapes and all sizes and all manner of ripeness. And you bought a basket, and then you'd fill it with however many of the tomatoes you could get in the basket, and you paid per basket. So you always made sure that you got several of them that were pretty green, and you got a few of them that were sort of green, and you got at least 2 or 3 that were just dead ripe, that were just about ready to bust. You didn't want to get them all ripe because they were all pretty fragile, when they were in that stage. Those dead ripe beauties would only last a few days, but you always wanted 1 or 2 of those, and usually they didn't make it past the parking lot. You dove right in them. On a hot day, you couldn't resist savoring one of those babies. You'd move it close to your mouth, and as your teeth would barely scrape the skin, a flood of juice would run all over your arms and your hands, and down the outside of your throat and down the inside of your throat. All that sticky, sweet goodness. It'd flow all over you. It was a full body experience. One time I made the mistake of trying to do it while I was sitting in the car, and I found that tomatoey gooiness all over the inside of my car. I don't know for sure, but I think the heat of the afternoon sun on those sweltering days made that tomato taste even better. This is what a tomato should taste like. I waited, and I still wait all year for this fruit to become available. I despise those perfectly round, firm baseballs that try to pass themselves off as tomatoes in the supermarkets at other times. I refuse to buy them or even eat them. They're selected and bred to withstand mechanized harvest, but they have no taste whatsoever. They are bland, fleshy beasts that masquerade as a real thing. I wait all fall, winter, and spring for real tomatoes. That fruit that reaches its peak in ripeness sometime in late July and extends to the early days of September. Diving into them like the waters of an old swimming hole on the hottest days and covering my face and my shirt and my arms and my hands with all its deliciousness. It's more than just a favorite fruit. It's a wondrous experience. Summer breakfasts contain a few slices. Lunch has to have at least 2 or 3 slices. Midday snacks find me eating them like apples. And then at supper, everything goes good with a slice of one of these real tomatoes. I usually eat them until I get those little acid blisters in the corner of my mouth, and then I'll continue even after devouring the precious fruits. It's amazing the joy that the summer abundance brings to my life. As the teacher in Ecclesiastes says, to everything there is a season. Perhaps by rushing the seasons of life, we miss out on some of the deliciousness. My friend Florinda Whitwer always gives me good counsel each time we talk. I take it one day at a time, she says. All things in their time also means all things in their prime. To hurry past the blessings of the moment only masks the true nature and the true flavor of the day. Life is a lot like tomatoes. Enjoy the abundance and don't mourn the tomatoes of old. And I never lament the end of the season either. I eat them when they're the best. I pray we find the blessings that surround us each and every day, and like a super ripe tomato, wash our face in them. Amen.